Hello, hello. All right. Are we recording? Yes. Okay. Hello, Sasha. So we did find out that our mic was dead last week. So it was soon. Yeah, it wasn't us. Bob was like, "It's you guys. I know it's you guys," and I was like, "No, it's not. It's not us. It's the mic." All right. So, how was everybody's week? It it was seems like it went right by quickly. It was good. It was busy. It was very busy. I know. I know. I know. All right. So we'll start out as usual with our meditation. But we'll start out today by chanting Om and three Shantis. So set up nice and tall. Inhale deeply. Exhale everything out. Inhale. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, choosing a seat consciously, place your feet, your legs, your arms, your hands in a way that's free from stress. The spine should remain upright, the skull balanced over the pelvis, the shoulders relaxed, the chin parallel to the earth. Relax the tongue in the mouth and release the muscles of the throat. Relax the muscles of the face, the jaw. And once you find the seat, commit to that seat and be still. Close the eyes and draw the senses inward. And having awareness of the breath, allow the breath to deepen. Full inhales and exhales without any force. And focus your precious faculties of attention on the seed mantra of Shanti, or peace. Inhaling Shanti, exhaling Shanti. Inhale Shanti, exhale Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So if you now will open up your chant books to page 16, and this is the wisdom of the rishis. And the rishi, a rishi is a Vedic term that implies an enlightened being, somebody who has realized the self or the oneness of being. And if you look at number 19, we're going to chant together, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So we'll do this as a call and response. Loka, Loka, Samasta, Samasta, Sukhino, Sukhino, Bhavantu, Bhavantu. Loka samasta, Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu, Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Now look at the English. May all beings everywhere, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some small way, contribute in some small way to that happiness and to that freedom for all, to that happiness and to that freedom for all. Loka samasta together. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. All right. Now, so our discourse today is going to be on Loka samasta, Sukhino bhavantu. And we chanted it in the Sanskrit, and then we did a interpretation of it. It's not a word-for-word meaning of it, right? If we look at the breakdown of word for word, Loka means location or realm. Samasta means same or equal standing. Sukhino is sweetness, happiness, joy. A bhav is an energetic, a mood, an emotional state of mind, right? Usually, when you hear the word Bhav, it also applies a higher state instead of a lower state. Antu means protector or a guardian or what I wish to achieve. So if we were to, look at this word for word, it would translate more into something like, as the protector of this realm, may all beings experience happiness, freedom, and equality, right? And it means that somehow you're in charge also. This mantra implies that you have control over your actions. When we chanted the English interpretation, that interpretation is from Sharon Gannon, the co-founder of Jiva Mukti Yoga, where we both studied, and Sharon was our teacher. And so we keep this interpretation in the Urban Sadhu Chant book because it really has, Sharon really spent a lot of time meditating on this mantra. And when she came up with this translation, she realized that the way to make others happy or free was by taking note of your thoughts and your actions and your words and taking responsibility for those thoughts, words, and actions. So realization of happiness and freedom is really through offering others happiness and freedom, and then you will receive happiness and freedom back. Now, one time I'll tell you a little quick story. I was at Wonderlust. I had just finished my apprenticeship program with Gayatri. She said, and she was going to teach at Wonderlust in Vermont. And at that time, it was a big yoga event that was really popular, right? It was like they brought all kinds of musicians and famous yoga teachers. And I went to a yoga class with a teacher from another lineage, and she chanted this. And then afterwards, she said, and this mantra means, may I be happy and free. And for me, I was like, I had never heard it even interpreted that way. And I was kind of taken aback because it was, as I started thinking about it, I kind of thought, well, it can't mean that, because yoga, if yoga is liberation from your attachments of pleasure, there's a Sanskrit word called boga, and boga is attachment to personal pleasures and personal desires. And boga is considered, right, the opposite of yoga, right? So the mantra can't be boga. It can't be a boga mantra. It can't be like, oh, I want happiness and I want freedom, and all my thoughts, my words, and my actions are about my personal feelings, right? And this reminds us that when we start to align our thoughts and our words and our actions with our intentions, then we have to say what we mean and mean what we say. Okay? And that I even have in really bold twice here. Say what you mean and mean what you say. In a lot of ways, when you chant this mantra, when you say, I want others to experience happiness and freedom, and I want my thoughts, my words, and my actions to uplift the lives of others, then you have to really mean it, or you shouldn't chant it. If you don't mean it, don't chant it. All beings implies not just some beings, right? All beings implies not just human beings, are the human beings that we like, are the beings that we understand and think are attractive or pretty or useful, or I want all beings, especially cats, because I like cats, but the dogs I can't stand because they bark, so I don't want dogs to be happy, right? Now, listen, I've had friends who were dog lovers and cat haters. And it's like, how can you, and I've always said to them, how can you, I get it if you have an allergy that you really don't want to be around the cat, but how can you actually prefer one to the other? Like, how can you like say I hate cats and I love dogs? Like, both of them will love you unconditionally. Both of them will, like, or have the same that childlike capacity to just gravitate to you because you're kind to them. So how can you hate one over the other, right? I even had like other day I had like, so we have like a cat we keep outside, and we have her little cat box. She's been with us since she was a little kitten. And we have two of them, and sometimes these other kitty cats, they come and they stay in the backyard with her. But the other day, I walked out, and there was this raccoon that was laying in one of the boxes, and she was in her box. And the raccoon was just laying there on his back with his head out. And like he was just, and I kind of realized that, like, because we're kind to the cats, right, all in the neighborhood, that the raccoon senses that the backyard is also a safe haven, and like, he just laid there while I like was like this close to him, like looking at me and kind of like scratching his ear, and he didn't run because like he could feel the vibe, right? He knows from the other animals that are back there in the yard that it's a safe place. So you can create a mood like that. The mantra itself is a bit like the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, if you want happiness and freedom, give others happiness and freedom. And what we want for ourselves is what we have to be willing to give to others. This idea of being able to give to others is kind of like making an investment into society and the world and making the world a better place. And like right now, I mean, when you look around the world, it just feels totally topsy-turvy. Like every day it's something new. And then you have people who are just walking around completely angry over it. And it's like, when there's that kind of anger, they're unwilling to offer happiness and freedom to others because they're really focused on the fact that they don't like the way the situation is. I understand that. But then what would happen if you change that energetic to one that is willing to like be compassionate and loving and uplifting? Could you change the world one interaction at a time instead of trying to change the world all at one time? In some small way, right? Sharon, I should make a note that originally she did not have the word small in there. This was an add-on probably the last 4 or 5 years that I was a Jivamukti teacher. She would start saying in some small way because she realized that without the word just the word in some way, some people were thinking they needed to go out and like change the world, and then they got discouraged. But what if you like change it in some small way, just with one interaction or one person at a time, or one thought at a time, right? So it doesn't have to be this big thing. What are some of the ways that you think that you could offer happiness and freedom to others? But what is something you could actually do? Smile, right? What else? Be more welcoming. Hold the door open. What about you? Yeah, giving it. What about you, Roma? Um, what about offering happiness and freedom to beings that are not human beings? Because everything everybody said was something to do with human interaction. Right. So, and because that's kind of what the first thing we think of is like, oh, well, like, what can I do to make humanity better. But then that becomes a form of speciesism, right? That one species is superior to another species, right? And when we practice speciesism, speciesism is actually a very destructive form of hierarchy, because you don't actually see that the cockroach has any usefulness. I mean, I know they creep me out too, but they do have usefulness. I mean, they do constantly eat waste, and they break stuff down, and they actually, in the biosphere of everything, they're needed. They're needed. But spiders creep me out. For years, spiders creep me out. But I actually had this guy one time come to my house. He was our neighbor, and he said to me, he said, you need to stop sweeping around your doorway in the summertime. I said, why? He said, all those spider webs, they catch all the bad bugs. He said, just let them do their job. And he was a pest control guy. So he said, let them do their job, and you won't have problems with other pests to get in your house. So it was like, and I'd been practicing and teaching yoga, and I kind of thought, yeah, that's something I'd never really thought about, that allowing somebody else happiness and freedom, like a spider, because the spiders creep me out, and I would go around and take all the cobwebs down and sweep them out and into the yard and make sure that they weren't in the house. But in reality, they were doing a good job. So, also, what about diet? And listen, when I say diet, I'm not just talking about eating meat or not eating meat. Food is something, like I said before, we go back to this idea of food, and we consume food every day. Are you buying sustainable vegetables, or are you every weekend buying grapes from Chile? What is the carbon footprint of getting those grapes from Chile? We're living in a world that food is consumed and bought like it has never been in human history. We don't pick our own food, right? We don't grow our own food. And we expect somebody who has few rights and, to come up from another country and get in that field and pick those peas, right? And at a cost that's low, at a lack of human dignity and rights. And then, to top it off, you have somebody like the governor of Texas that has decided to put it out there whether he has to even educate children of illegal migrants. Right? That just happened the other day. He wants to revisit that court case, saying, does the state of Texas, which is a huge agricultural state, have to even educate people who come up and work those kind of jobs that nobody else wants to do, to grow food, to put food, whether it's the meat industry or it's agriculture. So, food, and becoming aware of food in its vastness, right? Not just anti-animal product, but in all of it is a way to start to really get in touch with your thoughts and your actions, and how your actions actually affect other people. Chocolate is another prime example. People don't realize that the chocolate industry is based on slave labor. The reason why you can get a cheap Hershey bar is because people in Africa work for nothing and possibly don't even get paid in the whole hierarchical payment of getting the money from the European chocolate maker back down to the village. That sometimes by the time it trickles down through that whole series, that person at the bottom never sees a dime. And they keep working only because it's the only thing they can do with their lives. And we want cheap chocolate. So, what you can do is you can start saying, well, if I'm going to eat chocolate, I can support a brand of chocolate that acknowledges this. It's going to cost me more money at the top, but I'm not going to buy cheap chocolate. I'm not going to buy the dollar chocolate bar anymore. I'm going to pay a little more, maybe eat it less, and support a brand that acknowledges that there is a system in place that's not working. Anybody have any thoughts or ideas on that? It's very true. Yeah. It's purposely done. Yeah. 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 And he supplies he supplies a whole bunch of kind of indigenous fruits from Brazil that he has to actually deal with like indigenous farmers to actually, so he's dealing directly with small agricultural growers and things like that. Right. It's more expensive. Right. A lot of times we actually don't even realize that things like, things that we think are really kind and, compassionate, can or have a dark underside to it. Like one of the things that like I learned about was avocado and the avocado industry. I was like, oh yeah, vegan avocado on everything. Yay! And like then you start really doing some research and you realize that because of us wanting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper avocados, they're more and more being grown in Mexico, and it has put out the avocado industry in California, where it's about the only place you can really grow avocado, and in America, and the drug cartel is hugely involved in avocado, and because it's a way to launder money. It's a way to get money back into the system, and it's one of those kind of things that when you start doing research on it, people who are in Mexico and are trying to clean up the business of avocado growing for the sake of the farmers that are growing, they will tell you the worst thing that could happen is for Americans to stop eating avocados, because then it's going to collapse the industry, and then it's going to cause bigger other kind of problems, and they can tell you all the kind of problems it's going to create. But it's also like that they think that Americans need to curtail their appetite for avocados, because the more there's a bigger appetite for it, the easier it is to launder the money. So, and it's very complicated. I'm simplifying it to but you can watch documentaries on it. And you have farmers who are kidnapped, you have farmers who are killed, you have drug cartels coming into towns, taking over family farms so that they can control the growth and funnel the money into the farm and get the money out. And so, and here you think that your avocado is like, a kind of a good bob, and then it's like, wow, this is really complicated. I don't think that like a yogi is supposed to have like all of the answers to these problems, but I think that a yogi is willing to become aware of things, and that's the difference in like when you become a yogi, that you become aware of it, And then you make choices that are the least harmful. There's no way. Yeah, there's no way to cause. Yeah, and that's I think that's the biggest thing that and I always tell people. I mean, because like us leaving Jivamukti, I can use language that I didn't use before because they were a little dogmatic about the vegan issue, especially. Um, but one thing I tell people all the time is, Gandhi was a vegetarian, and Gandhi wore leather shoes. Okay, and like that's kind of seems like an oxymoron. Everybody kind of goes like, how did he wear leather shoes and he was a vegetarian? Because he actually bought sandals from a company that is still in existence today. You can still buy the same pair of sandals that Gandhi wore, but they go around, and once a cow dies in the street, they go and they pick the cow up and they take the cow and they use all its parts for material. So they use the hide, they use the bone, they use the hooves, they use the horn, but they wait for the cow to actually have a natural death, and they clean it off the streets of Mumbai. And that's a very different approach. So the idea, sometimes I say that the idea of the whole like Western idea of veganism, that I cannot touch any animal product, I think is a bit ridiculous, personally. Like, there is no need for you to go and buy a brand new set of bone china. Why? Because if you want a nice set of china, and yes, bone china has bone in it, it has animal bone in it. There is plenty of antique china that nobody wants at auction on the internet, and you can get. I got a 50-piece set of bone china, never used, for $5. Okay, so like, and it's like classic gold rim, white china that, like, it's not some funny weird thing. Nobody wants that stuff anymore. So don't, if that's the kind of thing you want, if you like that kind of stuff, don't go and buy a new set, and which is kind of keeping this industry rolling, when you could buy a used set that has never ever been used. It's not even out of the box. And yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, the it's in the clothing industry is very, very difficult. I work in textiles. I work in clothing, and clothing is probably the filthiest of all industries. It is probably one of the most harmful because it depends on child labor. It depends on workers who are like sometimes paid nothing, and that was even the case when America sewed. You know, and sewing is a women's industry. Mostly, it's done by women, and the I got news for you. I work as a costume designer. The costume department is always the least to be thought of, and it's because it's mostly women. And the first group of people that get thought about is the set and the light people, because it's all a bunch of guys. So, when you are buying clothes, like the idea that you always should have cheap disposable clothing, you're supporting like an industry that is actually looking for cheap labor. And, and it comes at the cost of children and women. And that's just the truth. Now, you got to have clothes. But you can buy clothes more sustainably. Don't buy a H&M blouse that you know is going to fall apart after the first washing. because they are those kind of companies really are preying upon cheap human labor. Fast fashion, yes. Turn it over. Yes. A thrift store. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah. 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 And I mean, it really does kind of, it changes things for you in a lot of ways, you know. If yoga is about becoming more aware and more conscious, then that's what's happening. It's making you more aware and conscious, right? Um, so let's why don't we chant? And Catherine has she has a much more beautiful voice than I do, and she's much more artistic when it comes to being a musician than I am. So let's do some other different melodies of this. And she's left-handed. You fake it very well. Yeah, yeah. Look how Loka samasta sukino bhavantu. 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 Loka samasta samasta sukhino bhavantu loka 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 samasta sukhino bhavantu.
All beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts and the words and the actions of my own life contribute in some small way to that happiness, to that freedom for all. And I always think, why would we settle for anything less? Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. One of my favorite melodies for it. And that melody is one I like to do sometimes like at the end of class, because to me there's kind of like a melancholy, or like it's not just bubblegum like sugar, right? Like I have another melody that's more like happy, like energetic, and I like that one too.
Is that the one? Is that?
One that goes in a round, right?
Yeah. Let's do that one real quick. Let's do it one real. So we're gonna and like, can we do it a cappella?
Yes.
Let's do it a cappella, because I think some of the thing, like what happens is like, and I just kind of peck at this thing, but a lot of people are intimidated by it, and then they think, oh, I can't teach because I don't.
Yeah.
So let's just do it a cappella real quick. Lead it a cappella.
I'm just thinking of it. Okay. Actually, can I do it with this verse just so I get the melody? So I'll go a cappella, just call and response and then sing along.
Yep.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, loka samasta sukhino bhavantu,
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. 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 Samasta sukhino bhavantu. See, that was fun, right? So, like, there's a lot of different melodies. There's a lot of different ways to approach it, and there's a lot of different ways, like just clapping or something like that, to get people involved. The other thing.
One thing, actually, I'm glad you reminded me of this. So I used to have like these little bells that like kids were using, like baby music. She stole them from the baby music class. But I would put them around my ankle. And I would start playing the harmonium, and then just to make it fun, like stop the harmonium and just do this with the class. And it's super simple and it's really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know them, but it's really fun
Yeah.
and really simple.
Yeah, and I think, and the thing is that when we chant, even though the express class, we're not going to. I mean, we're going to chant. We're going to chant to Lincoln teachings. In this, you don't really chant in the express class except for Om and Shanti. I tend not to use the harmonium in the express class. Other people do it. Other people go over and use the harmonium. Just know that there's a lot of different ways to approach mantra, and our slokas, our sutras, our shastras, any of the shastras. Like you don't have to perfect using the instrument. You do have to perfect using your voice, and you do have to start to learn to. And I tend to, like, if I see people not chanting, I would look over at them and I'll say, chant. And I learned that. I learned that from Sharanam Devi, who was Bhagavan Das's wife. And she told me, she said, when we do kirtan, I won't let people just kind of sit there and absorb the energy. She said they have to participate in the bhav of the energy. Like there's something not right about somebody coming to kirtan or something that's a vocalization and then just kind of sucking in everybody else's energy. They have to give too. So
It can be interpreted as participation, and bhakti is like traditionally a practice of singing, of
Yeah.
storytelling, and it's participation.
yes. Yes. So, like that's one thing that you might want to look at when, like, people are and know that there may be people who come to your class the first time. Like, I watch for it. I don't just say it to the person who's never been, I don't know. I say it to people who I know because, sometimes people may come from a tradition that they are like, oh my God, what's weird? This is weird. Have I come into a cult? Is this a cult? So you have to kind of let some people like kind of like have that moment too. And explaining what you chant is super important. What is the text from? Like, why are you doing this? What does it mean? Like, I have a friend who teaches, and he does this. I'm not sure what the chant is. It may be Buddhist, but he does this. And he goes, let us purify the space. And he starts this long mantra chant, and he's never told anybody what it is. And I'm like, it's so weird to go to his class because he never says, this is like, calling upon this energy to protect the space or to set its home for us. I mean, he never tells you what it is. So you always want to tell people what it is they chant. All right, let's take a few minutes. We have 5 minutes set up for the class. She has a beautiful voice. All right. Did you play what? Oh, That's so. Man, that's odd. Hmm?